Anyone who studied Amazon and Google probably knows the name Steve Yegge. He notoriously gave the world an inside account of the famous Jeff Bezos memo of thou shalt communicate only through APIs. That accidental public post led him to being on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. So I finally got to meet him in June, and we immediately found that we're both so passionate about how we increasingly shouldn't be writing code by hand. So he presented last year about the death of the junior developer, which he revived afterwards to be the revenge of the junior developer. So last May, I was walking my dog and was watching the Anthropic developer event and almost tripped when I heard Dario Amodei, their CEO and founder, quote that article and Steve numerous times during his portion of the conference. And so all I can tell you is working on the Vibe Coding book, I found Steve to be as hilarious, irreverent, and brilliant as you might expect. But maybe one of the biggest surprises to me was how we both rediscovered the joy of coding after we both had concluded that our best days of coding were behind us. And we were so honored that Dario Amodei wrote the foreword to our book. So it's been an adventure of a lifetime, and I can't overstate just how much fun we've been having exploring with so many of you how Vibe Coding is changing how we work as individuals, but also as organizations. Here's Steve.
Thanks, Dean. Hey, everybody. It's good to be back. We've got a pretty full house. I'm not really as fancy or polished as some of the other speakers, and I probably didn't practice this as much as I should have, so I'll be winging it a little bit. But on the plus side, I'm only going to go for 20 minutes, yeah? So we'll get us closer to lunch. So let's see where we are on our slide. Ah, yes, there we are. So today, I'm going to be talking to you about a tech transformation in tech that's absolutely unprecedented. And that transformation is me. That's me. Thank you. That's me in 2022, peak COVID. And like Gene said, I had just given up. And when you give up on programming and your identity is tied up to programming, then you give up on everything. And it's because programming could become too difficult, right? And I say this as somebody who's pretty decent at it, and it's just the ROI wasn't there anymore, you know? And it was sad because I had so many things that I wanted to do. I had so much ambition. I had this computer game I've been working on for 30 years that still I think is going to have its day in the sun, a gazillion other projects, and all of them it just killed me. I was like, I can't do it anymore, yeah? And so, and it's funny because it's actually AI that's brought me out of this sort of funk, right? Because when GPT came out, you know, I started, what? It wrote code, and I was so excited, you know. And everyone else was like, no, it's bad code. And I was like, I don't think that's really the point. But, you know, things proceeded, and we wound up on this track here. By the way, I picked up running last summer at age 55. I've never run before. Yeah. You can tell I'm a runner because I'm telling you about it. But now I run 25 miles every week, so this has been quite the transformation. So, yeah, I just covered this. I'm gonna move right along. You're gonna see, you've seen this a lot. People have said, well, 2023 was all about code completions, right? 2022. 2023 was chat, you know, and then it really picked up in 24 with Cody, Cursor, you know. Everybody's been about a year behind where I want them to be, like for a long time. Like when chat became viable with GPT-4o, that was the moment that the models were smart enough to edit 1,000-line files reliably, and that was a tipping point where you could now work on real code bases. So I was running around yelling at everyone, you should use chat to code. And people looked at me like I was nuts. They're like, no, completions, code completions, right? Completion acceptance rate, CAR. You guys remember that metric, right? And it was like, well, they would use chat for like the occasional like wiki lookup or whatever. And so I was mad, but I continued to push it really, really hard to see how much I can get out of chat, right? And it was hard, but you could get a lot out of it. There's a 5x boost if you knew how to do it well. And so then, right, you know, just as chat I felt was really starting to peak, we started hearing rumors from coming out of Anthropic that they were not using their IDEs anymore, and the engineers there were using a command line tool to write code. Of course, all of us senior engineers went, no, that's not what's happening, and that's stupid, and that's not going to happen. And sure enough, those rumors are absolutely correct, and Claude Code came out and completely changed the world for everybody except for 99% of programmers out there. Fewer than 1% are actually using it. It came out in March, and all your engineers right now are like, oh yeah, I use Cursor. It's like, oh, no, it's moved on. The form factor has moved on. Completions were like a 30% boost. Chat's like a 5x, 3 to 5x boost, right? Agents, coding agents. By the way, who here was in our workshop on Monday? Huh? Pretty eye-opening, right? Yeah, we had like, I don't know, 50 or 60 people come in and get to use, coding agents for the first time. And it's a very different experience because what we did was, with chat, you're in the middle of the loop. The AI bosses you around. It's like, okay, go run this tool. Tell me what the answer was. And you're just slinging answers back and forth, right? I mean, why do people even like that? Don't get me started. So what they did was they put chat in a loop. The brilliant people at Anthropic, okay? They said, let's just put that chat in a loop and have it handle all that manual slinging for you and see where it gets us. And it killed RAG. I mean, it didn't kill RAG. RAG's really important, but it certainly killed RAG for coding assistants overnight because it was able to go and just like, look, RAG is retrieval augmented generation. It's all this, fancy front ends we put in front of our data stores so that the AI can access it. And Claude Code was like, no. Give me grep. I'm just going to look. And it would just go look around on your hard disk and like a person would and say, okay, I think this is what's going on, right? Absolutely amazing. And so all year, Gene and I had to rewrite our book after Claude Code came out, because this was obviously the next form factor. This was obviously better than chat. Everybody should have switched to it instantly. Why didn't they? Well, because it's freaking hard. It's hard, okay? It's incredibly productive. But for me even, when I'm working on a system that I'm building and I know the architecture inside and out and I know exactly what I want, the AI will do any number of really, really bad things at the drop of a hat, right? In fact, it was and it looks like this. Old programming, you'd build a layer and then another layer and another subsystem, whatever. With vibe coding, you pretty much just say, I want it to look like this. And it comes up with a blurry version, right? And then you refine it. Which sounds horrifying to people, and yet that's what we do for a living, is incremental refinement. That's how software is built. This is just speeding it up. But it turns out to be so difficult that Gene and I wound up writing a book about it. I mean, we were talking about it, and all of a sudden it was like, man, our blog posts are all getting to 35 pages. This is not working. There's a book missing, right? So we wrote this book. It was an incredible adventure, incredible journey. We had to rewrite the entire book when Claude Code came out, right? We started in December, wrote about chat, and Claude Code actually helped us see the sort of evergreen principles as the form factor changes, because there are things that don't change. Okay? We'll talk about them in just a little bit. But boy, this book, I was really, really, really worried that this book was going to be completely obsolete by today as I stood on stage talking to you. I was seriously worried. I wasn't even telling people to read it. I was so embarrassed that we were going to write something that everybody would already know or wouldn't even be relevant anymore by the time, because that's how fast this stuff was moving. Well, it turns out we got, incredibly lucky or prescient or whatever, but nobody's using the agentic coding yet. It's probably 1-2% of the world's developers. And this book is about agentic coding, so it's landing at exactly the right time, which is, I think, pretty cool. This is what the book's about. They lie, they cheat, they steal. Okay? You have a new team of robotic sous chefs, and you're the head chef. You're no longer cooking. You're responsible for the whole dinner for all of your guests. And your robotic chefs are really talented, but they will also do crazy things, right? We write about all of them in the book. It's quite amazing, actually. And that's why people haven't switched yet. It's got a learning curve. Yeah, you give them Claude Code, you give them Sourcegraph AMP, you give them OpenAI Codex. If it's not on that list, it's a bad tool, all right? Maybe Gemini CLI, maybe the Amazon one, but it has to be an agentic in-terminal coding experience. And people just can't do it. They can't do it. That's why we wrote the book. And if you do read the book and you get that mindset and you practice and you build that muscle, then absolutely you join the camp of people who are, right? They can't sleep, right? Topo was saying his wife, Topo was telling us last night, he's like, my wife is like, what's wrong with you? Because he codes all the time now. Right? I mean, it's beautiful, but to get over that hump is really, really, really hard. It's proving really hard for developers. And here's the number one reason, okay? It's because every company has a monolith and a bunch of other stuff. microservices, little things, right? But that monolith, AIs really struggle with monoliths because they can only, they have a context window that's yay big, maybe a megabyte, and your code base is, gigabytes or bigger. And so in order for them to find their way around that code base, they have to go, remember they're using grep, so they'll go look around the code base and they fill up about half their context window and they start thinking, oh no, I need some context left for thinking. And so I'm done. I know everything I need to know about this code base. Let's go. We're going to build you a new observability system and a new logging system. And it's like, right? It's going to go off and do a bunch of really bad things. So how do you solve it? Well, it's interesting. We talked to Andrew Glover at OpenAI, and he said a bunch of the developers there, I don't know, low double digits say, I've started using Codex. Okay, and I tell you, the switch is so stark because I haven't opened an IDE on my computer in months. And I've written more code than probably this year than I did in my entire career. Not quite, but a quarter as much, right? So the developers at OpenAI who picked Codex as opposed to Cursor and the older Windsurf, whatever, they're so much more productive than the ones who aren't using it that they're now starting to have real concerns at performance review time, because how do you compare somebody who is obviously 10 times as productive as their peers? By whatever measure you want, right? He told us that more of the AI-generated PRs get turned back at code review time, which makes sense, but the ones that make it through are dwarfing the contributions of the people that are doing it the old way with chat, yeah? And so they said, okay, well, how come you're not using it then, to the ChatGPT developers? ChatGPT is arguably the world's biggest monolith, right? It grew super fast, right? And it got 1 billion users in a week or something like that. So yeah, it's not the prettiest code, no doubt. And the AI struggles with it. And so you've got this uneven distribution of benefits. And it's really annoying because the people who are enjoying those benefits are all saying, you got to refactor it into microservices. That's how you get the AI modularity, which is true. And the ChatGPT people are like, we're busy. Can't you see, right? And it's this huge chicken and egg problem, right? I mean, let alone, how do you even get a project together to refactor your big monolith? There are fortunately solutions that don't require refactoring your monolith, okay? You can get the AI to understand it. But it's so new as a discipline that I would say probably in this room there's only 3 or 4 people that have a solution here. One of them is Bruno Passos from Booking. I was just chatting with him before this talk. The signposting thing here. Imagine your code base is a mountain, okay? And your coding agent is like a little fire truck team trying to go and figure out what to do on this mountain, right? It's going to help a lot if you have some fire roads for them to get around, right? Just like if they can't go and scour the entire surface of the mountain, just carve it up for them, okay? And so Bruno was telling me that they used LLMs to go into this old legacy system of theirs and build a system model that was queryable. There's another customer of ours at Sourcegraph that I met in Britain. I can't tell you who they are, but they're doing something similar to this. So there are multiple companies doing this. You have an old legacy code base that people don't understand very well. You have the model go in and analyze it and produce all the documentation and the signposts and the sort of directions that coding agents and other kinds of agents will need in order to find their way around your monolith. You augment that with some good search engines because they can use any tool. They can use a search engine, and it's great. There's all kinds of search engines out there. We have a nice one at Sourcegraph. They're very hard for developers to use. They have complicated syntax and blah, blah, blah. Well, the AI knows the syntax, and so that problem is solved, right? And then, of course, your senior engineers are the people who, they're going to be the ones who ultimately nudge the AI to do the right thing in this big context. They're the ones that'll say, this logging system you're building us, go use that one, right? So it's solvable, but very few people are. And so as a result, the people benefiting from AI are the ones in a few domains, like new projects or really well-factored microservices or certain languages. Okay, so I want to dive in just a little bit, one level down of how vibe coding is different from regular coding, okay, and then help understand why developers are having trouble adopting it, and then I'm going to make some predictions for you that you can bank on. Okay, that's actually my job now, is to predict the future, and I'm actually getting pretty good at it. I can see around corners about 8 months or 9 months, I think, and it's because I'm on the ground pushing it harder than any sane person would do. I'll tell you about my little project in a minute, but this doesn't look like regular coding to me. There ain't no mention of an IDE, right? Syntax, language. No, you have a plan, you onboard your agents, and then you babysit them. Yeah? So it's a completely new workflow. It has a really high cognitive overhead. What we found is that if you're running you're going to run one agent and you're immediately going to get bored waiting for it, so you're going to fire up another agent, right? And that game lasts until you got 4 of them running, and then your head explodes, right? Because like the context switching is incredibly difficult. But if you put them all in the same project, I found you can go all the way up to 15 or 20 agents, because for some reason the context switching is lower. So it can be a little bit counterintuitive. I mean, look, this is all muscles that you have to build as a developer in order to get value out of these things, yeah? Oh my gosh, I have vibe coding projects that last minutes, and I have vibe coding projects that last months. I have one that finished up a couple of weeks ago that I started while Gene and I were midway through our book. And in the book, I was saying, oh, this thing will be done in a week. And it took months and months and months to finish porting all of my tests from my video game from, 1,000 test suites from one language to another. So these things can take a long time. So again, it's not easy. And boy, oh boy, especially if you're trying to do it with a swarm, which is kind of what you need to do because a lot of these problems are parallelizable. And Adrian Cockcroft was the first one to be talking to us about swarming agents back in June. Okay, and I picked it up shortly after, a month or two later. You can actually spin off a bunch of agents, and they can do a bunch of work for you. But then there's a problem. You know what the problem is? The problem is they can't see what each other are doing, and so they build perfectly good systems that are not merged together. And I found out that this has got this kind of a map-reduced workflow where you can get a bunch of your swarm to go off and do a bunch of stuff, but then you gotta merge all that work back together again. And in the new world where the agents are moving this fast, way faster than a regular programmer, okay? What happens is, let's say you go do the web portal to one agent, and you go do the event system to another agent, say, right? Well, by the time the event system one finishes, they may have changed the system so much that the web portal one, whose their changes are coming in later, now has to literally re-implement their entire thing on this new system. And so what we have is a merge queue. Okay, this is a problem that all of you will be dealing with soon. When coding is no longer the bottleneck, merging becomes the bottleneck. Okay, and there are products emerging and this kind of thing, that kind of thing. I could talk your ear off about this, but I want to get to the punchline. All right, we talk about these loops in the book. All right. And if you read, you should give your developers the book. You give them training, give them whatever they need, because, they need to pick up this agentic coding. Because even when we get to the next form factor, which I'll tell you about in a minute, you're still going to need all these skills. The LLMs still lie, they still cheat, they still steal. By lie, cheat, and steal, they'll lie about being finished. Party time, it's production ready. It doesn't even compile yet, right? They cheat. Right? They'll just hack your tests. They'll give you cardboard muffins instead of real muffins. We've talked about all kinds of scenarios in the book. And they steal. They'll take your database table from you like that. And there's no backup, right? So yeah, this is a hard space. And we're asking all of your developers to just jump in and do it in monoliths. I think it's almost impossible, all right? So what I decided after watching my own work this year, okay, is that this form factor today that I love so much, and I'm walking around all year telling everyone to use it, coding agents, right? This ain't it. This isn't the final form factor. Completions wasn't the final form factor. Chat wasn't the final form factor. Agents, I think it stands to reason, are too hard today, and we need to move to, probably back to a UI would be my guess, right? So what does it look like? Well, I'll tell you. I know exactly what it looks like because I just wrote a book about it. All right? Gene and I put in a bunch of workflows that if you do them, you will get the best results out of coding agents. And many of them are quite mechanical. Please do a code review. Please fix the bugs from the code review. Go fix the test now. Do another review. It's the same thing over and over again. You're just, right? How many of the things that you're typing into a coding agent could have been handled by a model? No, I don't care which one of those two things you do next. Just do one of them, right? Yes, continue, right? So, seriously, we are missing model supervision. I predicted this back in March with the Revenge of the Junior Developer. I predicted that agents, models would come along and run coding agents, and we would start doing fleets of agents, swarms of agents, right? which is going to be incredibly expensive. And I did a lot of financials around how screwed all the companies are who didn't do any budget for AI and agentic coding assistants. And it caught the attention of Dario, who invited me up to his office in San Fran, and we had a nice doomer chat about all this. But yeah, oh my gosh, oh no, my thing didn't show. How sad. Oh, there it is. It was this, okay? This thing is spot on. It's still happening, okay? So if coding agents are not the form factor, what is? I'm going to finish my talk by telling you what I do, okay? A couple of people have already come out with these orchestrators. You can't just have Claude code run Claude code. It doesn't really work that way. You need something much more rich and complex. These things are already doing cost overruns. People are already freaking out over them. But these are the right direction, directionally, okay? But the one that I'm building, all right, this is what my desktop looks like right now. You see up there? No IDE, just terminals. This is not for everyone, okay? What I'm building is I'm automating my own workflow, okay? I shopped it around all year. I went to a bunch of different people and said, here's what we need to build. This is the next form factor. And they're all like, someone else could build that, or they didn't know what I was talking about, or whatever, because they're not in it, pushing it harder than any human being. Who else here runs 12 coding agents at the same time? Like, I might be the only person stupid enough to do that. Wait, I saw a hand up. Are you stupid like me? So, because it's stupid. I mean, but I pushed it that hard to see what the boundaries are and what tooling are we missing, right? And I learned a lot. And now I'm building it, yeah? And I was hoping to unveil it on stage today, but I only started 3 weeks ago. I had this huge revelation that there's only one way to solve this problem. Because I'm automating workflows, the workflows that Gene and I documented in our book, the ones that I use every day, all day long. Workflows. Anybody here know how you automate workflows? There's only one way to do it. Come on, someone shout it out. Where's Cornelia? Temporal. Everybody who's trying to solve this problem without Temporal, which is a third-party software package, come from Uber. Actually, Max, who invented it when he was at Google with me. And Google was like, nah, we don't want it. We already got 50 workflow engines. What do we need another one for? So he went to Uber, and now Uber runs on Temporal. And Netflix runs on Temporal. And everybody who has workflows that actually work run on Temporal. And so I said, all right, that's going to be the substrate for the next agent orchestration. And I've been coding literally 12 to 15 hours a day. My agents are still running in the back here. I can't let them stop, all right? And I'm building a system called Vibe Coder. Because what else would it be called? And what it's going to do is it's going to be just like a coding agent, except it's going to do all of the stuff that you have to tell your engineers to do. Do a code review. Now make sure it still compiles. Now go check that you didn't break the security stuff. Now fix the tests. All this routine garbage that you got to deal with coding agents is going to be handled for you, so by the time you see it, it's going to be beautiful, all right? So, and Bruno's volunteered to be my guinea pig. So with that, that's the future. You got to learn coding agents now. You got to keep your eye open for when coding agents get better with systems like the orchestrators, like Replic's Agent 3 and Conductor and my Vibe Coder that's coming and any others that are coming. Only use the ones that use Temporal. And then we'll get to our call to action, which is, now's the time, okay? Anybody in your organization who's still using chat, you need to have that talk with them. You have to say, that was really cool like 6 months ago. But, okay, so have the chat. And lastly, if you liked the workshop was amazing. It went really, really well. I mean, people are still coding on their projects from the workshop. Who's still coding on their project from the workshop? Look at that, hands up all over the place. This really, this is a lot of people's first experience with one of these coding agents. And it's just, it will expand your horizons, yeah? So if you liked it, if you're interested in the workshop, if you want to see more of this, DM me or put in a little emoji on the message that Gene's going to put into the channel, and we'll get in touch with you, and we'll get the workshop to you, because this is the best way to get started. And with that, thank you for listening.